以你可以帮我看一下 YouTube 现在是有没有在直播吗？
有，我现在有看到你的 Figma 的那个 tab。
OK， 那我们就用这个。那你现在有看到这个主标吗？就是它的
都有，你声音也没问题。
好，那 OK， 那你可以帮我把现在这个连接发，sorry， 这个连接是什么？Oh my god, so chaotic. So sorry, Lou and Herb. We got a little emergency right now. But yes. So
don't worry.
That's way.
Do your thing.
Okay. I'm going to announce this to our Instagram. So we're going to start. Please join this one. I'm going to. So, okay. 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 Hold on. I think I should share this one. Hold on. Sorry, let me switch to. Hold on. I wanted to switch to another. Let's see. Google. Hold on. So maybe we can. Let's see. Okay. Can everyone see me well? Okay. So sorry for a little bit chaotic, but because today we have a little bit emergency when dealing with all this, the recording and the live stream. So hope everyone can bear with us for a minute, and we're going to start the conversation real quick. And for today's meetup, we're going to record, and because this event it's going to be mainly in English, so please open up your CC. We're going to open up our CC transcription here to make sure everyone is going to have at least a English subtitle for joining this whole event. So today I'm really glad to have Lou and Herb for this event. And hold on, let me share the other one here. So let's see. Hold on, let me share. So can everyone see? Sorry, it's so everyone can see our slides here. today's event is Creative Mornings featuring Chinatown Basketball Club, CBC. We are very glad to have Lu and Herb with us for this event. And so for today's, so before we start, I would like to introduce why having this creative morning section with Lu and Herb for this New Neighbors series of events, because this New Neighbor activities is actually the extension of the Processing Community Day Taiwan in 2023 that we actually host fully online, and we are glad to have the opportunity to have this time for some of the actually off-time events, including visiting different studios and also having a lot of workshops with different audience in Taiwan. And for this event today happening in here, Creative Morning with CBC, I would love to invite everyone to explore how CBC grow from a basketball club, actually I feel like it's starting from a really pure gathering and then expand into a ecosystem and mutual aid system that ecology actually, with different artists and curators and also creatives. So this is why we're having this event today. And so if you wanted to know more about New Neighbors and how these events are hosting and organized, you can check out our websites that having information about different events and also our team members. Okay, so before we start, I would love to have introduce from me, and then we will pass to Lu and Herb later. So I'm Zhu. I'm currently an worker owner of Co-Assembly. We are the first design co-op in Taiwan, and we also run Spawn as a community garden that using workshops and also dialogues to address what kind of issues and social surrounding we are facing as a designer and artist and creatives. And I would love Lu and Herb to have an introduction of yourselves and what kind of organizations and what kind of communities you are cultivating right now.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for having us, first of all. And Drew's obviously a big part of CDC, still, even though in Taiwan. So my name's Herb Tam. I'm one of the co-founders and co-organizers of Chinatown Basketball Club, and I also work for the Museum of Chinese in America, which is located in Manhattan, Chinatown.
My name is Lu Zhang. I'm also one of the co-founders of Chinatown Basketball Club, along with Herb. But we have different teams along the way for different projects, and we're going to get deeper into it. But I myself is an artist, work mainly with ceramics and video. I'm also an educator. I teach ceramics and art for different age groups.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for introducing yourselves. And actually, I wanted to see whether I can share my screen here. Hold on, because I found we cannot see everyone's face. Let's see how it works here. Okay, great. Okay, then right now we can see everyone's face. Okay, hold on. Okay, so let's do it. Okay. So, but hold on, let's see. If I click to here, oh no. Okay, so for today's agenda, please, I'm so sorry for today's streaming accident. For this section, I will like switching different windows to make sure everyone can look at Herb's and Lou's faces throughout the stream. I would say really, yeah. So this stream will be a little bit chaotic, but bear with me. So for today's agenda, we will have 10 minutes to introduce each other's, and also we're going to have 35 minutes dialogues, focusing on starting from the publication by CBC, the floaters. During the chapter, they actually mentioned several concepts and also how they frame the process of CBC that really inspiring. So we will love to starting from the introduction and the colors and space chapter in the floater, and then combine our own experiences of organizing the New Neighbors project. And we hope to explore how a community moves through the journey of out of place, and then second place, and also becoming neighbors. So in this 35 minutes, we're actually going to follow the 3 pillars to do our conversation today. And hopefully together we will look at how a community transforms from a state of not belonging into a space where people collectively create culture, care, and for another, and eventually become neighbors. So through CBC's experience, we also hope to think together about how basketball publishing and artistic practices can intersect, and how these practices offer us different ways of hold on, someone wants to join actually. Oh, okay. Sorry. Then we and how these practices offer us different ways of building and understanding communities. Then we will soon move in. So this is the 35 minutes dialogues today, and then we will have 15 minutes for Q&A, and probably some of the CBC members are joining. So I'm really excited for today's section. So without further ado, so I will start our first section, out of place, and I will switch to here so everyone can see. I would love to invite Herb to talk a little bit about how you and Lou start this kind of relationship and history between CBC and Chinatown, how this kind of connection began, and how this sense of belonging started to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the relationship to Chinatown was very organic and kind of stemmed from just like our existing, life pattern. Because I work in Chinatown. The museum's located in near Columbus Park. Back when we started CBC, which was 2019, like Lou and I were just looking to get back into playing basketball because it was just something we did. It was like an obsession of ours both growing up in our own like cultural, context, but we had kind of strayed away from it, just getting busy with life and other things, and then so we just decided like let's get back into playing, and we knew some other people that wanted to play, and a few of them like actually live like in Chinatown, so we just decided let's just like play at Columbus Park and try to gather people. So we didn't have this idea of like doing any historical excavation of basketball in Chinatown, or we didn't have any idea of bringing together like a lot more people. We just wanted to get enough people to get a game going, at Columbus Park, and at that time we would play like on random days after work, usually before it got dark. And then, but I think the sort of thing that we responded to was that it was sometimes hard to get people to come play with us. So we had to kind of invest energy into creating a sense of identity and direction and for what we were doing, which was just simply trying to get a run, and then so we decided to first of all just create the name Chinatown Basketball Club, and then start Instagram. Even before that, we would email the small group of friends with these kind of overly enthusiastic, recaps of the runs in the previous week or something, just to get people just to show people we were serious and took it both seriously and kind of humorously too. The Instagram thing was really I think the thing that we were okay, we need to come up with sort of a visual language that would appeal to people that that are like us. So we were okay, we should just explore what it means to represent Asian basketball. What does that look like? And I think one of the first kind of inquiries into that was with what is Chinatown basketball? Because that was our name. So then what is Chinatown basketball? And luckily at the museum, there are actually a lot of, or not a lot, but there's some good Chinatown history of basketball, photographs and some other artifacts, and so we mixed that in along with people Wat Masaka, who's on the upper left here of the spread. Just trying to feature other pioneers, and I think we will talk about that with what she grew up with. But so it started out just as a way to send a message out there to the world that just basically calling all hoopers that might identify with what Chinatown basketball history or Asian American basketball history. If you're we're trying to send a message out there to gather people, and that's kind of how it started, and that's why we went into some of the archives that we did.
Yeah. To answer Sue's question, I think me and Herb has a very it's a similar past but very different angle. It's just because how we grew up. And I grew up in China, came to central China, Xi'an, and I came to America in 2012. So when we started CBC is around 2019. And I think over the years, being in American as someone that didn't grow up here, I was really trying to go to a lot of community events that related to Asian American or Chinese American subjects. But then I always felt somehow come out a distanced feeling. That feeling didn't really somehow makes me wonder, maybe there's something that just they're in between. It's not whether I am Asian American, I am Chinese American, or I am Chinese. There should be something in the middle. So then I felt when I enter Chinatown, along with her playing here, I'm always self-aware about I am coming from outside, out of the place. And then I think that awareness didn't stop me coming to Chinatown. I think it just changed my perception or perspective in a way that, I'm coming in as an outsider. I want to understand what this neighborhood about, and I want to be part of this, as neighbors, and respect the tradition. So I think partially what Herb was saying is we're coming in and learning about the history here, and then presented, sending message to who ever also interested in the history and in the identity and the subject of basketball. And then for me, because Herb digging in the Chinatown deep, so then I just dig in how I grew up from China, and like I've watched manga growing up, and then I've listened to a lot of pop music from Taiwan and Hong Kong, and I think those are my early poster references that has a lot of images that's very different than what people who grew up in America look like. So then for us, I think we're visual artists and visual person. So I think that's for us a way to dig in our identity is through the image research process.
Right. Because I didn't open it up.
So
yes, I just muted. Yeah, because when I'm preparing this section, I actually really inspired by how actually you two have different perspective on how you feel as an immigrant and how you as a neighbor or like an incomer that into Chinatown as a space. And so another thing that really stood out to me is that I heard and see how you guys are collecting this kind of like visual elements and also visual culture materials from animations or dramas or even we see that have a lot of this kind of historical images. And I also love wondering how you see when it comes to actually our players or CBC players started to doing this kind of posters or different kind of visual materials as it seems like to me it's also a records of how a community forms and remembers itself. I feel like this kind of spirit and also this kind of use of media, including social media, continuing to live on through CBC as well. And so I would love you guys to share about how you view when you're looking back to from different times and area. They have a lot of zines or posters from the past CBC or past Chinatown basketball gathering, and how you view when nowadays CBC players, just like us, creating this kind of materials, how you see this kind of dialogue between time and space.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess because of the intention that me and Herb were just talking about of our own interests and our own process of researching into how we grow up. And then I think in the beginning, it was like almost a year of creating posters, just me and Herb doing it. And to some point, I remember one of the earliest designer, Riff, right now Riff is in Singapore. Yeah, and then he came in and then said, can I take on some of the duty from you guys? So it was volunteered by him first, and then he started designing for almost a year-ish, and around. And then we realized, he discovered, he told us that one thing that really touches him is he used to think about design in a really serious way. But then when he does CBC, to him, it's almost like a daily or weekly exercise of design. So it put a lot of his stress away, and then this is just a part of the process of discovering something. And then because of that relaxed way of exploring, and then we also and then combining me and Herb of thinking, maybe not only us has references and how we grew up. I think everybody has it. And then that's when I think Sean joined Reef, and then this is one of the Sean's poster that, because he's Filipino American, that's also something that he was looking into, images, has relationship to his root of growing up. So then because of this beginning part of few of us doing it, and we're just wondering, what other people feel about CBC? How does basketball relate to them? And then whether this can be expressed collectively through a really long period of time, but weekly as exercise, as practice. So that rather something that, like now all the poster result into the book, but when we were making it, it's nothing grand or nothing like, oh, this is a historical piece. Everyone was just thinking, oh, it's like basketball, it's part of the practice, and it builds up over the time. That's how I.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you landed on this spread right here from Sean, because this is probably from 2022 or something. So we were pretty young at CBC, and when I first saw it, especially the one on the right, when he submitted it, I was like, huh. Like, I don't know I didn't know if I liked it or not, but I was like, that's an interesting relationship with this kind of tender boys hugging each other and CBC. Like, I didn't really kind of get it, but we've never said no to any design that got submitted. We were just always happy that somebody would make something, so we posted. But I think now looking back on it, it's like, I think Sean saw something in CBC that expressed through this poster that maybe I didn't even like kind of understand at that moment, which is like just I think the way that CBC has become like a very warm, friendly atmosphere. Like, that's one side of CBC. I think that he saw, and like my relationship growing up with basketball is that it's like a space of competition and intensity and even like combativeness, and aggression, and like and those words, like if you think about basketball aesthetics in America, it all kind of like elite performance, like that's all how basketball like looks in America. Is like sort of projecting those ideas out there, and it doesn't ever really look like this, what Sean created here. And he created this before, like, we had Sunday school, and before we were had this kind of like all these entry points for people to come in and join. So I think that's what, in a way, like his visuality kind of forecast what CPC eventually kind of became in reality, like as a space. So I think it's amazing how kind of like art can do that, and I feel like art has done that throughout time, actually, throughout like history.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said, Lou just said, first thing you said about, it seems like this kind of practice of making posters or making visuals are the daily practice of how they see joining CBC or coming to a basketball court is like a daily thing. It's really easy and really like it's not a big thing, and it's not like you doing your job or like it's a work. So and also Herb talk about another thing that I feel like we can smooth to second place is that you mentioned this kind of images of boys hugging each other, or even some of other poster that is really let's see, this one, it has really like a friendly vibe of how this kind of different makers or different creatives visualize how the CBC can become, is also kind of against of how people see basketball culture. And this kind of concept is also can relate it to our second pillars. It's a second place. Sorry, I'm gonna just switch back and forth. But in the second place, actually in this book, there's a passage says that also echoing with what Herb just said, that sometimes being aware is more important than defining it. It is a searching attitude that hopes to enter the small cracks where our basketball upbringing, culture influences, and visual language can communicate. And to create is sometimes to bring what already exists but has been ignored by norms back into the awareness. So I feels like maybe this kind of how those visual materials bring back to our vision is what is forecasting what basketball can be like. And for the second place, this pillar, I would love to welcome you two to share a little bit more about what CPC players are forecasting. So within the community, how do the objects and the creative practice carry this kind of forecasting, or carry this kind of easiness or memories of belonging, and how do they become a way of expressing or claiming, it's more like expressing their own belonging within the community? And how do you see this kind of connecting to the idea of what you've been saying in the chapter second place is what is Asian or Asian diaspora basketball athletic. So I also collecting some of the ceramic tournament trophies in the past 2024 and 5, and also the incidental contact that is present through outdoor group photography. So I would love to welcome, maybe you can talk about how this kind of visual output or forecasting or objects carry this kind of belonging, and how you see this kind of CPC culture growing.
Thanks to Herb, you want, or
I think that's it.
okay, I'll go first. Yeah, I'm really happy to mention about second place. The essay that is one of the article that I wrote for the Floater. It's a really epic long essay, but when we were editing, Herb was like, I think it takes time for me to work through it, so that we kept it the length. And then when Sue mentioned about being aware is more important than anything else, and I think that's still kind of inserted in everything we do in CBC. Like being aware on the basketball court is almost like the most important thing than knowing how to shoot, to me. Like because the nature of basketball game is teamwork, and that we talk about the space compared to soccer field or football field is quite small. And the ball has to pass it to every player's hands. Like not have to, but most of the time, if the court flow happens, then the ball kind of pass to everyone to create a chance, rather than you just go in by yourself and then you shoot it and that's the end. So a lot of times the game itself involves everyone to be part of it. So then knowing your team, like yesterday Herb was just commentating on the Argentina's game.
Yeah.
That why soccer players not doing screen for each other, or they could screen so then the other players could open. So in basketball, if you screen, other players gets open. So those things I really see that a lot, that can be translated into collaborations in creative field. That when we do creative work, or when we think about or collaborations, co-working together, I often want to think about how people play basketball. So then when I say that you need to assist or help each other, or understanding each other's rule, understanding each other's strengths and disadvantages while creating artwork. And that is what I like. This thought kind of came maybe at this moment, but in the beginning it was definitely not like, oh, I know this is what I want. But it's more like over the years, we often create things looking back to the basketball game. And then like you mentioned about the incidental contact, it is a exhibition co-curated by Sha Luo and Benji Xu. So then they selected photographers that kind of deals with contact, but in a very intimate way. So then we talk about the contact in the sports a lot, but it often referring to a foul or aggressiveness, and like being occupying or fighting for the space. But how Shasha and Benji interacted that subject is in basketball, there is a term called incidental contact. And so you happen to touch each other on the court by fighting a ball together, and that doesn't count as a foul. So it's allowed on the court to touch each other incidentally. So they kind of enter from that really vulnerable moment of touching each other that's allowed on the court into how, during the daily lives that intimacy could also bring it out. So then when we exhibit it, it's kind of wrapped around the court and they're flowing with the people. So it has that softness, but then people are, fighting and yelling on the basketball court. That was when the moment of like, whether it's competition is all about winning, all about fighting, or, constant, like the competition also allows the incidental touch. And so that's where I felt like just this example that we think a lot about projects, how either reframe about basketball or inspire basketball, and then continue this conversation and discussion around it. And then I found it creatively very satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. But do you want to talk about like the term second place?
Oh yeah. So that's a good point. Thanks, sir. So second place also because I wrote about how my basketball history I grew up and I played few important tournaments, including the one that I played with Zoo in 2024, and I still lost as the second place. So I never win like a champion, but then I think for me it didn't hurt me to still be involved in basketball, and I think that translates to how we organize CBC as well. Like if you're not the best, you can still play, and I think that's the playground that we want to open up to. So then we think a lot about how to make steps or ways or methods for bringing people who don't know how to play. Because my heart for the second place, but then second place, like Sue mentioned, it looked like an identity wise, Chinatown American or being in this place for me is my second place, like second place hometown. So then that's also where in my heart, I think CBC shouldn't be so defined as whether it's Asian, Chinese American, or any kind of identity. It should be open that allows people who don't feel anywhere they belong could have a place to belong. So that's where I think my heart is for. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have that much to add beyond that, but that we are open to all, yes. But I think what we try to create is a kind of experimental alternative. Or I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that we are trying to create that. I would say that if I'm thinking about like the kind of space that I really like being in, it's spaces that think of themselves as alternative, think of themselves as open and welcoming. Think of themselves as places to experiment and where you could like show up and kind of like almost anything could happen, or you could expect to see anything. And these alternative spaces for me are like really important. And so often, like in New York, you go anywhere, you're faced with like the pressure to buy something, or you're faced with like the pressure to sort of consume or exchange something. So I think with CBC, that it happens every Sunday at the same time. For some people, they've talked about how it feels like church, going to church for them or something. And I never went to church, but to me, like, the basketball court is this place where you can, or not anyone else, but like for me, I feel like I can kind of be a true part of myself, with other people, and I really like that kind of space. So to me, it's like CBC is all like so many things actually, and it's hard for me to sort of pin down, like, to name it in any way, and I think that's why, like, all the artistic, like all the art projects that kind of like have been part of it, I think actually have helped us sort of put words or put like visual ideas into the mix as possibilities for what CBC could be.
Mm-hmm. And when you guys are sharing about, like, from the slightly touch, the contact that you mentioned in the photography exhibition by Shah and other different artists, and also reminds me of and then Herb just mentioned about this kind of like positionless, I would say, because you also mentioned that kind of positionless basketball in your book, and what you've been sharing is also reminds me of in page 11 actually you wrote about, like, we have triple threat mindset and offensive position when all possibilities are at a player's disposal and when they are most dangerous, and you also mentioned this kind of positionless basketball in which players float around and blend in, fill in, and take on whatever job is necessary. And you also refer to a floater refers to tiny specks and or shapes that drift across one's field of vision, that is never fixed, always in motions. And more broadly, the term describes something that remains suspended either on the surface of water or in the air. In basketball, a floater is a short-range, high-arcing shot above the reach of the taller defender. And so you mentioned this kind of terms that like defining how you, it's not defining, it's more like positioning how you view what you've been saying, this kind of touch, this kind of, it's more like a tender interaction on the basketball club that is also showcasing, not showcasing, but like showing this kind of texture through your writing, and also your what everyone made and contribute to the community. So I'm a little bit curious about, like, how you connect this, such as like the touch, or such as the vision or the triple shots, like how is there any inspiration or like the little stories that you can share with everyone about how you defining this kind of interaction on the basketball through this term? Is there any inspiration that comes into your mind, like, oh, I can see that it's a triple shots, or like I can see that it's a positionless basketball? What kind of stories reminds you about this kind of concepts? Can you share one or like two stories with us?
Yeah, the positionless basketball thing, like, I guess when I think about that term, there's a player that I think about specifically, like Kendall Kim is his name. Kendall
from CBC.
Yeah, from CBC. He's not like a NBA player, but he plays with us a lot, and he has a very he's very fast and quick, and he's like runs all over the place, both on offense and defense, and it's sort of like you never know where he's going to be.
Mm.
And but he's just always there. He just shows up at the right place at the right time, kind of thing. And he's very opportunistic. I feel like at the same time, there's a lot of flash in his game. Like he likes to put on a good show, you know. And so when I think of positionless, I think of him because he doesn't really fall into the, you know, sort of 5 traditional positions of basketball. And I think that has been a trend, you know, with basketball at all levels, you know, for the last like 10 to 15 years or more, where, you know, if you're tall, it doesn't mean you have to play close to the basket. You know, you can be anywhere. If you're, sometimes the shorter players will go inside and play close to the basket. And there's also more of a kind of demand for players who are in between that, you know, like medium-sized players that can do everything. And so to us, like, the relationship to positionlessness had to do with like how immigrants often have to survive. You know, you might have been educated somewhere like in your home country, but you move here and you have to like do janitorial work and also, you know, learn English at night and also, you know, I don't know, pick up garbage, et cetera, you know, so you can't just like be one thing. As an immigrant, a lot of times like you have to be positionless in a way. So it's kind of like, it was a term that we kind of like sort of began to think of a lot in terms of CBC. And I think we do this a lot where we do like these word plays. Floater is a good example where it's like a term that is very like, has meaning in basketball, but then if you expand on it or you think about it expansively, then it actually has like these interesting intersections with, you know, other aspects of life beyond basketball. And, you know, that kind of poeticism or a sort of thoughtfulness with language, I think has been like cool part of CBC.
My answer to Zu's question for positionlessness, I think it kind of goes back to where Zu was asking or mentioning that reading about being aware more than being defining something. Like, I think for me and her, thinking about organizing, we think about that the same way. I like when her was phrasing, I think we're really aware about, I want a CBC to become this, or I want a CBC to become that. I think for us, we do have our hope or what we care a lot about, but consciously, I think we don't want this central voice in the middle that telling everyone what you should think CBC is. So I think that that positionless in a way that also is telling us to, you know, step back and then giving voices to people and then forming, you know, a collective voice that I think it's we had a conversation before for certain ideas that kind of feels very scary. You're like, you're not sure where you're going, but then it's not like we're not sure doesn't mean we don't know what is happening. So that can kind of bring in the awareness, like we're seeing, we're observing, we're seeing where the energy kind of forming stronger. And then I think for me and her, like helping to organize, meaning, if we're seeing that energy is lower there, but we care a lot, but through organizing, we can, you know, bring back the energy up, like bring back the tenderness up, bring back everyone's voice higher. Like it's rather than going and say, I think this something has to be changed. It's not like this kind of mindset. So the positionless to us also feels that way. We just see what needs to be done at the moment. So the awareness is like a constant practice as well. So then that to her also mentioned about, I think over the years, like from the 90s to now, the basketball game has changed. I found really inspiring. It's not like, back then it was so physical. It was like you have a big center in the paint and you're gonna win the game. Now, like a Steph Curry change or small players shoot threes can change the game. But now, like everybody is not going to the center, so there's no center. Like everyone's kind of outside, but then the court flows better. Like you go in, you come out. You go in, you come out. Even big players plays outside, so there's still chances for things to change. And that to me, put basketball players in that positionlessness that is very inspiring to me to think about organizing as well. Like everyone has your strengths and skill, and then when the things happen, everyone kind of takes turns and gives space to each other. It's that game flow that you probably are thinking about in both organizing, creating, and playing basketball. Yeah, and floater too. I think floater, when her mentioned, I was drawn to floater. I think there's a really interesting thing with long bridge in basketball as well that we're still experiencing it. Like floater is something I was like, oh, floater, floating. Like I was drawn to by that meaning of you don't know where you are. Like all the time you're just suspended in the space and time. And as a person who came from outside the country, I always feel like time zones different. Like everything feels like floating. But then I realized in the basketball, the floater is actually a play, and it's for smaller players to win like a possibility shot. Then I was like, oh wow, this is such an amazing term that I just like marinated for many years before even we thought about. But then when we were looking into the book, we researched about the floater. That's when the visual spikes that blur your vision come in, and then we were like, oh, this book is about graphic design and like visual references in CBC identity through those things. So then it makes me realize that we think about our graphics coming in not trying to define this is Asian American aesthetics, but we're like those little floater spikes in the majority, like a big mass basketball aesthetic, where like the blurry, like their aesthetic kind of thing, we're like throwing some floaters dots there and say, maybe, like you look at our graphics and our visuals, you can think about basketball this way. But I felt like that's the attitude of like not trying to define what it is, but we're trying to throw some floaters there in the visual aesthetic sense.
Yeah, really inspired by how you guys using this kind of terms and how you're like combining or like connecting the knots between your own identity and how you play basketball and how this kind of flow. In the book you mentioned a lot of like this kind of flow and energy, and also I'm really it's also a good place that we can connect to the last chapters of Becoming Neighbors, because in when as the organizers, and also you guys are organizing this community for several years, I feel like this kind of not sure but not is not equal not knowing, or this kind of ability to seeing each other's energy or seeing each other in as a group is also a really is usually invisible in the group when everyone is saying that, oh, you have a strength, or you need to be like a lead, or you need to your skills need to be really visible in a group. That I feel like this kind of floater attitude, or this kind of flowing movements to helping a community grow and keep continuing growing is what I love to talk about furthermore and in the following section. So let's dive into the last section. For this section, I would love to share a little bit about how my own reflections on organizing the new neighbors event, and then after sharing, maybe Lou and Herbie can also jump into this kind of discussion on how we see organizing can be like from community into the neighbors. So in the previous two sections, we talk about how CBC has gradually created a sense of belonging in a place away from home through basketball, local history, artistic practice, and also what we've been talking about, this kind of flow and this kind of poetic, I would say poetic creation between different activities and identity. So I would love to take this question one step further. So our question is if becoming neighbors is not simply about meeting more people like we used to do in a lot of communities, that it feels like nowadays organizing communities are really popular. This kind of popularity is it's a little bit complex for me. Sometimes I feel like, oh, what does it mean to be organizing a community? Does it equal to be meeting more people and that's it, or doing things together and that's it? So that's why we kind of like questioning in this kind of definition and situation or status of community, and question how it can be taken further to cultivating this kind of careness, just like you just mentioned about this kind of touch, this kind of checking in movements, the flow in the court. So questioning is about like becoming neighbor is probably about truly beginning to build a community together and becoming part of the neighborhood. And also I wanted to dive into what kind of person do we become through this process. So actually in the past I have always feels like my identity is being a creator or a individual artist or designer. I think about what I wanted to research, what I want to create, and what kinds of social issues I wanted to respond through my work. But I feel like this kind of position is kind of switching when an individual entering, whether it's in a game or whether it's in a team. I feel like I'm starting to switching this kind of position from really thinking about, oh, what am I responsible for in this team, or what kind of outcome can I create, or what are my strengths. This kind of perspective is really stem from this kind of division of labor and individual expertise. And when I'm entering a team, I naturally bring in this kind of identity and individuality perspective into my collaboration. But I'm currently feeling that my perspective is actually switching. I'm switching to what kind of partners I am, or what kind of teammates I am, and what can I bring to the team and the people around me, or around us. And through this kind of doing and caring together, what are the things we can create together that none of us could achieve alone. So I feel like this kind of changing into like team-oriented motivations and co-working method. And probably later we can also talk about like how we see this kind of co-working or cultivating our community, what kind of method we are growing right now. So, but I feel like this kind of transformation is actually not easy. Like it require an individual to have this kind of shifting the position, especially when our surrounding environment are actually dominated by capitalism and consuming culture. But I feel like when it comes to this kind of transformation, what helps me a lot is actually not advice or actually not, oh, you should be there, just like Lou just said, oh, you should be that kind of position, you should be there. I feel like what helped me as a transferring or like still learning organizer is those people who listened and offered support and continuing to trust me. Just like we trust those people in our team, we trust he or she can get the ball. We trust through practicing and showing up every Sunday in CBC, our relation can be growing, and our skills or our this kind of awareness can be growing. So it feels like it reminds me of another this kind of individual invisible work of building relationships. So I wanted to talk about a little bit about how other authors, or currently there's a book about it's called The Less Human Job by Alison Paul, she asked this question about, in a world that increasingly values efficiency, automation, or standardization, what kinds of work remain uniquely human? So when I'm writing, or like when I'm planning these talks, I feel like there's a lot of echoing concepts when we talk about humanity, and we talk about what kind of invisible work we are investing in running this organization. So in the book, she mentioned this concept is really resonating with me. It's relational labor, that it's a work of seeing another person, understanding them, and helping them to feel understood. And so in the book, the author also said that what is difficult to replace is not only professional knowledge, but the ability to create meaningful connections between people, which happens through interaction. So for example, just like what you've been saying, is that you kind of like through, so for actually showing up every Sunday. And also I remember whenever we ended up playing basketball, we also went to the Chinatown restaurants or those ice cream shops to have a hangout and have a chat on what's going on with our lives. I feel like this kind of interaction is important. It's important to continuing what we have on the court, and even off the court, we still have this kind of connection into our everyday lives. So I feel like this kind of process is really significant and really important when it comes to organizing a group or organizers, or even it's a community project. It's really important for running this and cultivating this. So and actually I would love you to share a little bit about when it comes to organizing CBC, how you see this kind of labor you are investing in, and I believe there's definitely some of the burnout moments when in running this kind of collective or group.
Yeah. Well, just look at me naturally. Yes. When Zhu was talking about this relational labor, the term, I'm almost gonna cry, because I think I've never actually valued or articulated this labor or effort, which I care the most between people, and or a bit like during organizing especially. And I really appreciate that you made it that is a way to kind of addressing it and talk about it. Now I really want to cry.
Oh.
Like we always kind of cry.
Oh.
On the core too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that I think about what Zhu said. In terms of organizing, I really think relationship is what I care the most. whether it's at a competitive level, friendly level, and or the interactions of all levels. So like in the beginning, I thought there's a lot of artists in the club, but there's also non-artists in the club, and they're just playing basketball separately. So then that's when the mini market idea came when we host tournament. I thought if we just invite artists from the club and have a table showing their what they make, it's a way to exchange and share with each other, not in a forceful way. So I think those things that's always in us. When we had a first year's tournament, we thought, the communication between the court and the market is not enough. So second year, we pay attention to, increasing the MC kind of pointing out each vendors, making sure everyone noticed them. So then those things I think is really like the second year when the dynamic of the group changed, when the newcomers of like really beginner people found out the BC has a basketball club that has mixed genders. And then they were all like, I'm not good enough, can I play? And so then that's when Sunday school created. We just figure out, we're not saying, you can't come, you're too bad, like a playing field, you don't even know how to start. But then rather than thinking about that, how we can shift to that is to create a school through teaching. Then there's a step for people to step in, and when they feel more comfortable, they can rise. When people feel more comfortable, they can leave CBC to be more competitive in a basketball sense. So that I felt like every step of way that how we think is there is an issue. There are gonna be forever issues when people gather, but through organizing and through noticing the issue, I think how we can not fix the issue, but like I think you mentioned a really good point is to understand or build trust with each other. So like if there is an issue, we brought it up, we try something, it changed, or it might change better, or it might change worse, then we try again. And so it's not like, I just want to bring out one fixed system, it's going to solve everything. It won't. But like you mentioned, that checking out everyone's emotions, and then knowing and understanding the stress, the intention, and like all of those relational labor that we put it in is to help. Is maybe almost to me is the most crucial part of maintaining the niceness and kindness of CBC. Even though I think people are not always happy with each other, and personalities is like all over. But I think what to me I care the most is, like no matter you don't like certain people or you hate someone in the club, but you can still be yourself in the club. You feel this is a space for you, and I think that's where, it's still public. It's a public club and public park. So whenever those conflicts happens, that's what I felt, I care the most is, like you give each other a chance to trust each other. So even someone did something bad, and it's a process. It's a working process that to continuously maintaining that, I'm okay to still be here.
Yeah. I guess for me, just real quickly, it is a lot of work to organize CBC, but it is, I think we've learned like what to sort of enforce and what not to over determine too much, and to kind of let go of some of it. Like for example, there was one time where this white kid who had been playing with us a little bit, like here and there, he comes up to me during we were doing like a Sunday school kind of drill, and he's like, "Hey, like what is this? Like what is this group?" I'm like, "Oh, this is a Chinatown Basketball Club." I'm like, "But you've been playing with us, so you like, you know, we do these drills or whatever, and you can like play on the other side or whatever. And he was like, okay, but like how can I join? And I'm like, no, you're already part of it. He's like, what? What do you mean? I'm like, this is a public park. Like, we don't really have any like guidelines. Like, you play with us a few times. Like, I know you. Like, you're part of the thing. And
Yeah.
you know, so there's like that, which we can be really chill about it. And you know, there are other parts of the work of organizing that, you know, we have to be more kind of like rigid about, you know, certain things. Because, you know, we are at this point like a kind of organization, you know, we are like kind of public facing. We can't just like sloppily do certain things. But, you know, I think, you know, it's just like any work, you know, you have to, at least for CBC, like, because, you know, nobody's getting paid in this, like, we have to enjoy it. And then, you know, if we don't enjoy like the process and the outcome, then, you know, we really have to like relook at our involvement, you know.
Yeah, I want to mention, because Herb mentioned, and then I remember to ask breaking down moment. There's many breaking down moments, but every time I'm like, oh, I can't keep going, Herb will always say, like, the worst is everyone leave and we still go play basketball. So then that kind of carried me through all those difficult moments. I was like, okay, like he mentioned, if the worst, like nobody likes us anymore, then we will still go play basketball. I think that's how we started, and that's how we will just always be. So this basketball experience is central, even to ourselves. Like, if that basketball experience can carry us, it can carry us.
Yeah, I mean, just like a note about like the word sustainability, which I think is always on everybody's mind when they are starting something or trying to keep something going. And I feel like nothing is sustainable. Like, especially this kind of work of like bringing people together, you know, it ultimately gets to a point where it is like kind of overwhelming and it's not sustainable. Like, and it is like a lot on like certain people, but those people who are taking the lead on it, like they must drive it. Like, they must have the willpower to keep it going. If they don't show up, you know, when they need to show up, then it definitely will fall apart. So there, you know, I think the idea that there's this magic formula of sustainability is like not real, to be honest, in like this kind of work. So, you know, I just feel like if you're gonna make something and you're gonna involve other people, then you have a responsibility on so many levels to it that that you know you can't sort of pass that on to somebody else, or if you pass it on, you must pass it on responsibly. You know, at a certain point, like it has to be you, like, you know, digging in and just grinding and like keeping it going, even if nobody cares. You know, but if you like really believe in it and you buy into it, then like you're like this kind of energy and willpower, the magnetism will like draw people, you know, maybe. But even if not, like, you know, if you still feel like there's something there, then you have to do it. Like, to me, sustainability is like not a real thing.
Yeah. What you've been mentioned is really echoing with I'm actually thinking when organizing these talks and also reading this. The first thing is you've been mentioned. I've been thinking about joining in the group is not necessary. Everyone needs to be identical or everyone needs to be the same. Like, I feel like I actually have a slide on this quote. Hold on. It's okay. So I feel like it's also I think it's here. Hold on. Okay, it's okay. Oh, because in the book she also mentioned about this kind of building trust and embracing your differences in individuals. So when in the book she's also mentioning let's see it mentioned it's actually why people keep gathering around and why people kind of becoming beyond community and becoming a neighbor who consistently checking in with each other or caring about, noticing about each other. It's because the trust that like Lou just said, even you're realizing we are different, and even we are noticing that we have fights, we don't like each other, we have different value system, but we can still trust in each other, and we can still embracing we are differences, and that's why we can keep building trust with each other and keep trying. And I feel like another thing, this is the main thing that when organizing a thing or you're facilitating something, you have this kind of mindset of embracing the differences and also complexity of how a human being growing up. He might have different, social backgrounds and different kind of social experience than you, and then you are definitely not identical, and you're definitely not like a robot that can be split apart, and you see like, oh, I can take you because you are so good at drawing, for example, and I can extract your skills from your human being body. And I feel like this kind of relational labor that in organizing thing is to continuously reminding ourselves like that a human being cannot be separated as a skill or as a particle that can be extracted or just like take it off and adding yourself like a robot. I feel like this kind of the relation we are experiencing is actually reminding what human is. And another thing I wanted to echo is what Herb just said about this kind of promising and this kind of showing up as a community leader, that even everyone is leaving, but you still showing up. I feel like that is also another thing I really experiencing in coordinating the events. Yeah. So let's see. So right now, actually, we are having a Q&A section. So at the end, I wanted to conclude a little bit about what we've just mentioned in this dialogue. We starting from Lou and Herb sharing their upbringing and also their history and how they come from Chinatown, and diving into what kind of visual materials and what kind of interaction and this kind of transformative creation in the court and off the court, and expand into different forms of artistic practice. And now we landed into what kind of reflections and labors we are investing in organizing things. So I do feel like at the end, after this event, or after New Neighbors or like CBC ends, are we still willing to care about each other and continuously practicing this kind of trust is actually really important and critical for organizing a community or organizing a collective. So I would love to see is there any Q&A for Lou and Herb, and Billy, can you check on the YouTube stream whether people are having questions or even in the dialogue? I can see Zijun and Ashley is in the chat, is in the meeting. So yeah, sure, go ahead. You can open your camera.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Zijun.
Thank you for sharing. I feels like I even play CBC for such a long time. I still like have something I don't know about CBC. Yeah. And
We're in a call.
yeah,
Is this a research study?
I think right now I don't have a question. I just want to just say hi and say thank you.
Okay. Hi, Ashley. Long time no see.
Hi.
Glad
I
to
also
see
just
you
want to
here.
say hi and thank you as well. I'm at the park right now, so listening from Columbus Park.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
I actually really. Oh, hi, Ashley. I actually really want Ashley and Zijun to be on the call, and then they both did.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and because I think we did talked a lot about something that I think Zijun and me and Ashley and her both were kind of having conversation around it. But I'm curious how they think, but I think they're so nice.
Nice.
Mm.
Oh, I see there's a comment to ask that did your involvement in CBC help to inform your approach to community organizing? I see this question in the chat. I would say I feel like it's not like helping. I feel like my 缘分, my encounter with CBC is more like I don't know, it's more like an energy echo, like when the same channel people, it's also relating to my personality. I love to hang out with people, and I love to gathering people around to have things to do together, and I feel like CBC for me is a place to do it and meeting more people just like me, and it is actually a home for me when I'm in New York. So it's not actually helping my approach. It's more like helping each other to form together into something that is bigger and having a belonging in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to jump in because I think every time I have conversation with Sue, I always learn a lot. Just the way you're thinking, because you mentioned about neighbor, the concept of being a neighbor, and also being or an organization, or like being in a like being in like a community. So when we say community, it seems like we just gather together once for a thing and then we just go away. But then we mentioned about practicing daily in CBC, allow each other to grow and having trust with each other. And I think why I mentioned to Jen actually is we all went through a lot of things recently. And I think what hurts the most is when people don't have trust to each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that was when, like you don't give each other a chance to grow, even you're in this club together. And, you can be really different. But what I learned from Zoo today, being a neighbor is a continuation of a relationship you're building. Even though you live in different apartments, you're like having a very different lifestyle. But, when it comes to like some disasters that happen, your neighbors that you can hold each other's hand to work together. That trust, like it needs the relational neighbor to maintain and caring with. So it's really not about I have a fixed role and then everyone follow, because everyone's so different. But how to glue that together is a labor. Yeah, and then I think it's in you too. Every time I talk to you about what you're thinking, you're always thinking of organizing, hosting things that bringing the boys together. So yeah, and I felt like it's a mutual learning experience.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Okay. I think, is there any questions that anyone? I'm so glad we having a good conversation today because it's a little bit chaotic when we testing the streaming.
No, you're so organized. We
Oh my
appreciate
God.
that. Yeah.
Thank you. Really glad. Okay. So I feel like that's for today's events. Oh, is your top advice for someone who wants to start a community? I feel like this one can for Lou and Herb. What is your top advice for someone who wants to start a community?
I think Herb mentioned it.
Well, first of all, I really don't like this word community.
Oh,
Um,
yo, let's talk about it. Neighbor.
Yeah, neighbor is much better. It's more specific, and the word community is so general and vague, and I think people use it to kind of capture like this broad swath of people they're referring to that is very actually abstract, and to try to like group people into a consensus of of ideas or philosophies or whatever, when in reality they might be thinking of like a small group of people, but the word community kind of buys them more I guess consensus, and so I try not to use that word. If I'm talking about Chinatown, then I'll say residents of Chinatown or something, or just try to be more specific. And I don't know as far as advice. I don't know.
You
I mean,
just said it. Sustainability.
Yeah, I just think for us it was kind of simple and a little bit stupid, which is just like
We love basketball.
you just show up at the same time every day or every week at the same place, and
I feel like it's more like a ritual, like things happening at the same every week.
Just to comment on that is because what Herb mentioned about sustainability doesn't exist. That was a really big statement, but to me, I think about sustainability as a if I'm starting like for example CBC, like I think when Herb mentioned that, like for us, we can show up every day, we can make a poster every day. That's already a lot if you do it for 5-6 years straight. But that's something that we can do. So I think for to start something on your own, I think it's something that you can manage yourself, and that will carry you through like difficult moments and driving, the manpower, rather than start big and then you can handle and you burn yourself, and then it's like short term. So I think for me, sustainability is maintaining an energy evenly, and like for yourself and for everyone else as well, that you can handle. Yeah.
It's more like taking care of yourself first, and then at the same time let your teammates know what's going on.
You're burning out.
Just let you know that I'm tired right now, I need some help, and then you can keep continuing growing this kind of relation with others and also with your teammates.
Yeah. I'm burning out. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? The last questions? Anyone? Or maybe Zijun or Ashley?
We need a separate conversation with just them two.
Sure. I feel like we will have another conversation on organizing things or even working together. This kind of togetherness can also be one great topic. Yeah.
I have a really quick question. I was
Okay.
just curious if this talk is recorded because some people at the park asked me, and like they will be able to watch this talk later.
Oh yeah, sure. They can.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
it will leave it on the YouTube, so everyone can check it out later. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us too.
I think that's for today's, and so thankful for everyone to coming in and also in the chat room, and I will see you soon. Okay.
See you soon.
See Ashley soon.
See ya. Bye. Thank you.
Okay.